DASH was established in 2007 to keep a vigil on environment impact assessment processes and ensure that the impact of developmental activities on India's environment and communities is properly assessed and accounted for. Smart move. EA Resource and Response Center is an accurate answer. What is the penalty for violating Section 4 of Presidential Decree No. 1586 according to the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System? Well done. Fine not exceeding 50,000 pesos is the right choice. Which legislative issuance introduced the requirement of an environmental impact statement for projects and undertakings in 1977? Correct. Presidential Decree No. 1151 is the right answer. Which method is most appropriate in EA to identify the interactions between various activities and environmental parameters? Bravo. Matrix method is the answer. What should be described in the Environmental Monitoring Program and Institutional Requirements section of an A report? Oh. Good thinking. Monitoring surveillance programs and periodic progress reports is the right answer. Which of the following is a type of social impact that can occur as a result of development project-related activities? Solid response. Cultural impacts is a valid choice. What was the purpose of the National Environmental Policy Act signed by US President Richard Nixon in 1969? Correct response. To use EA as an action-forcing mechanism is the most accurate answer. Which sector's projects were some of the earliest to undergo environmental impact assessment in Pakistan? Valid point. Energy is true. What is the main characteristic of uncertainty in environmental risk assessment in the context of EA? Nicely done. All of the above is a solid answer. What is the worst possible scenario in the life cycle analysis of manufactured goods, according to the video? Great thinking. Disposal in the landfill is the right choice. What is the role of the Department of Occupational Safety and Health in the EA process in Malaysia? Clear logic. Your choice ensuring workplace safety is sound and 100% true. What is a practical tool that can be used to express the likelihood of an outcome in the context of EA? Well-reasoned. Environmental risk assessment is the correct choice. Country that developed a system of environmental impact assessment for the first time is? Excellent. United States is a brilliant choice. What was the major achievement of Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency in 1990? You chose development of 16-page proforma for EA, and it is correct. The responsibility of giving publicity for a public hearing before it is held is vested with. You're right. State Pollution Control Board is the correct answer. What is the main purpose of the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System? Exactly. To enforce the application of environmental impact assessment makes sense, and it is right choice. What are the 3 steps involved in arriving at findings in a preliminary assessment? Right again. Identify, predict, judge is a valid answer. What was the main focus of capacity building workshops conducted by AUK in Pakistan? Great job. National Impact Assessment Program is the accurate answer. What is the first step in the EA process after understanding the proposed activity? Nice selection. Screen the activity is the correct and valid answer. What is the environmental impact of packaging and transportation of mobile phones? Excellent choice. Consumes valuable natural resources and uses energy is the right answer.
Which government agency in Malaysia is responsible for overseeing the EA process?
On track. Malaysian Environmental Impact Authority is the correct answer. What legislation in Malaysia governs the environmental impact assessment process? Smart pick. Environmental Quality Act is the correct choice. What was the main focus of environmental issues during the Industrial Revolution? Perfect. Air pollution and smog episodes is the correct choice. What is the purpose of conducting a preliminary assessment in the EA process? Sharp thinking. To conduct a rapid, simplified EA study is the right choice. Which event led to the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency? Nice work. You chose the Cuyahoga River catching fire, and it is correct. When was the Pakistan Environmental Protection Act 1997 introduced? Right choice. 1997 is the best answer. Which document outlines the guidelines and procedures for EA in Malaysia? You got it. Your choice guidelines for environmental impact assessment in Malaysia is right. What is the key concept in EA when characterizing the baseline situation? Well picked. Variability in environmental components is the correct answer. Who is responsible for conducting social impact assessments in Malaysia? Strong choice. Relevant project authorities and consultants is the right answer. Which aspect is not typically considered in a social impact assessment? Good job. Your answer, geological impacts, works well here. Who are the key stakeholders considered in a social impact assessment? Great job. Both directly and indirectly affected communities is the accurate answer. What is the main goal of identifying and predicting impacts in an EA? Smart move. To assess the potential environmental effects is an accurate answer. What is the significance of stakeholder engagement in the EA process? Good thinking. To engage stakeholders and consider diverse perspectives is the right answer. What is the purpose of an environmental impact report in an EA? Perfect. To summarize assessment findings for decision-making is the correct choice. What does EA stand for in the context of environmental assessment? You chose environmental impact assessment, and it is correct. What does the step of scoping in the EA process seek to identify? Nice selection. Key environmental issues is the correct and valid answer. Which step in the EA process involves the prediction of impacts? Smart pick. The prediction of impacts is the correct choice. What is the role of geographic information systems in EA? Great thinking. To facilitate visualization and analysis of environmental components is the right choice. What is the purpose of strategic environmental assessment?
Strong choice. All of the above is the right answer.
What is the purpose of post-implementation monitoring in an AR? Nice work. You chose to ensure predicted impacts and mitigation measures are accurate, and it is correct. What are the basic questions in assessing environmental impacts?
Well-reasoned. What will happen as a result of the activity is the correct choice. What is considered to be a social impact in the context of EA? Solid response. All of the above is a valid choice. Which of the following is not a key component of an EA report? Correct. Public opinion survey is the right answer. What was the main outcome of the Earth Summit in Rio in 1992? Good job. Your answer agreement to combat global warming works well here. What is the purpose of conducting a baseline study in an AIA? Right choice. To gather data on existing environmental conditions is the best answer. What is the outcome of an EA process, usually referred to as? Nicely done. Environmental impact statement is a solid answer. What is the origin of environmental impact assessment? Exactly. Ancient civilizations make sense, and it is right choice. What is the key characteristic of sustainable development? Sharp thinking. Maintaining continuing access to natural resources is the right choice. In SIA, what is the purpose of a baseline social survey? Valid point. To understand the existing social conditions is true. What is the outcome of the screening process in the EA? Excellent choice. Stop the EA process is the right answer. Rapid EA refers to the assessment based on a period of. You're right. 3-4 months is the correct answer. Name one method commonly used in impact assessment. Excellent. Environmental impact assessment is a brilliant choice. What is the main focus of social impact assessment? Well done. Social and cultural impacts is the right choice. What is the purpose of scoping in the EA process? On track. To identify key issues of concern is the correct answer. What does follow-up in the EA process encompass? Right again. Monitoring of impacts, environmental management, and impact auditing is a valid answer. What is the first step in the EA process? Clear logic. Your choice. Screening is sound and 100% true. What is the primary goal of an EA? You got it? Your choice. Minimize environmental impact is right. What is the main goal of EA? Bravo. To support decision-making is the answer. What is the purpose of EA? Correct response. To minimize environmental impacts is the most accurate answer. What does EA stand for? Well picked. Environmental impact assessment is the correct answer. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format? You chose Contact Narayan Chengder, and it is correct.